Module 13, Tort Liability. A tort is a civil wrong based on the idea that individuals are liable for the consequences of their conduct or lack thereof. There are two types, intentional and negligent. An intentional tort is an offense committed by an individual who intends to do harm to another person or understands that the action may cause harm. There are four types. Assault, attempt to physically injure a person or create the feeling of fear. Battery, the actual physical deed that is threatened by the assault. False imprisonment, intentional confinement by direct physical means. And defamation, false written or verbal statements that harm a person's reputation. For a tort to be negligent, it has to have these four elements. There must be a standard of care, which is care that a reasonable, prudent person would have exercised in a similar situation. Breach of duty, which is failure to meet standard of care. Proximate cause, which is foreseeability, where you can foresee an injury may happen. And then injury, actual physical or mental injuries. My first case is Harris v. McRae. Victor Harris was a 15-year-old boy who suffered a heat stroke on August 21st, 1995 while at football practice. The Harrises were suing the district and coach for damages resulting from the heat stroke. The court decided that Coach McCrary was acting within the scope of his employment as a coach, and that a coach must use his discretion in judging whether or not an individual player is injured and then whether the player should report to a trainer or seek other medical aid. If this were to happen at my school, some reactive and proactive measures that I would create would be to create a drink policy for the warmer practice times, that all students must take a drink at specific intervals or whenever they're done with the drill or both, and to create a temperature policy where maybe they can't wear full pads and do a full practice in the heat of the day during the summer, like when it's 110 here in Kansas. And I would increase the knowledge on water consumption. Currently at my school district, we as coaches have to watch a video given to us from Keisha on the importance of water consumption during practice. So I would definitely include that. My next one is Harris v. Potomac County School District. This is the case of Derek Harris, and he was an 8th grader at the middle school, and his mom was a secretary at the elementary school on the same campus. In September of 2008, he and a friend emailed their computer teacher saying that they had hacked her computer and then said they were only joking. 2 weeks later, Derek sent the same teacher another message saying, "You might need to tell the admin the school is vulnerable to a DOS, which is denial of service attack." The messages were investigated by the district's technology coordinator, and then the district decided to call in a computer analyst from the Mississippi Department of Education. And while the computer analyst was there, the school experienced a denial of service attack. Derek was removed from the class he was in for questioning, and the computer he was using was unplugged. The district's network problems were then solved. After an investigation, Derek was suspended from school based on suspicion that he was responsible, and he was placed in an alternate school for 45 days. The parents sued the school district for defamation of Derek by teachers, and that he was denied the due process in his suspension. The court ruled that the defamation claims were just hearsay and or comments made directly to him, which is not defamation because defamation has to happen when comments are made to a third party, and that Derek was not entitled to due process as he was not being denied access to public education, only temporarily being moved to an alternate school for 45 days. Some proactive and reactive measures that I would take is I would look into our network security and see if there was anything that could be done to improve it. I would also look at the district's policy on computer use, more specifically looking at if a parent has access to confidential information, can their child have access to their computer, and is that okay, and what access they have. And I would clarify the district policy on moving a student to an alternate school, mainly specifying that because they're just being moved to an alternate school, they do not need due process because they're not being denied access to public education. My next case is Johnson v. School District of Millard. This case deals with a first grader who was injured while attending music class on September 15th, 1993. The music teacher, Nancy Patton, had taught the class the song and game of London Bridges, and in her instructions she told the students not to act silly, to not yell or scream, and to not swing their arms too much. Robbie testified that he was swung fast and hard, that he asked to stop 3 times and asked for help twice before the accident happened. The accident was, he was accidentally released and thrown into a bookcase, causing a cut above his right eye, requiring 50 stitches. He suffered blurred vision for a short time and continued to suffer headaches. Johnson said that the teacher was at the board not paying attention to the students. The courts ruled that the teacher's mere instruction of first grade students on how to play the game without direct supervising during at least the early portion of the game was negligent supervision. And if this happened in my school, I would reiterate to all staff the importance of supervision during activities, especially for the younger students. And I would also reiterate the importance of writing on the board isn't important during activities that can wait till later. My next case is Brachek versus Millard School District. Pretty sure I said that wrong. David was a 14-year-old ninth grader who died as a result of an injury occurring in PE class on April 3rd, 1974. The students in PE were completing a golf unit inside because it had rained. David had missed the previous day's instruction, and that day the students were following the teacher's instructions, but as it turned out, the teacher's instructions were not what had been written as their indoor instruction. The court ruled that the lack of supervision was a proximate cause of the death of David. And if this happened in my school, I would definitely take the time to look over the instructional units with my PE teachers so that they were for sure that those instructions were there, and maybe tweak some to make them better for our current situation. And I would also look at alternate supplies for indoor use, as well as maybe alternate activities for indoor instruction. My next case is Nichols versus USD 400. I chose this case because I did my student teaching in this district, so it was interesting to me. The facts in this case are that Jeffrey Nichols was practicing football, and the coach directed the players to run to the locker room after practice through a grassy waterway. Nicholas stumbled and caught himself, but later had back pain. And Nicholas brought suit against USD 400 and the football coach for negligence in having the players run in the darkness and for failing to supervise the players. The court ruled in favor of the district based on the discretionary function and recreational use exemptions to the Kansas Tort Claims Act and the Land and Water Recreational Areas Act. They said that the coach was acting under his scope of employment, and because the area was for recreational use, the injury that Nichols suffered couldn't be prosecuted. If this happened at my school, I would look into creating a designated path for returning to the locker room and check that path often. That might include paving a part of the way from the football field to the locker room, or making a bridge of some sort so that injuries that Jeffrey suffered maybe could be prevented. The professional ethics that these cases really nailed into me was supervision of students and to always make sure that it's safe. And here are the resources or the where I found the court cases.